Hello, Pilger. I cannot tell you how excited it is to be here and how honored I am to be here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, about why I stand before you. Many of you, of course, know the story of Joplin and how we had our disaster. And on a scale, maybe there were more numbers behind it. But let me tell you something, whether it's 60 homes that are destroyed or 8,000, if it's your home, the emotion is still hurtful and it's right here, right?
Right.
So as the world watched your disaster, I can tell you that 50,000 of us in Joplin were watching that TV closely with tears in our eyes, and we felt what you were going through. It touched us deeply in a way that now when you hear of other storms, it touches you as well. So as that week progressed, and I got to Friday at about 8:30, my son was gone that weekend, and it just hit me, I've got to go. And at 3:30 in the morning, I loaded up my car, and I knew what had to be done. So I had the equipment, my boots, and everything else. And I got up here, and what happened is that the love and gratitude that all of you have was showered on me suddenly because somebody noticed that the city was Joplin on my driver's license when I registered. So I was expecting to get out here and help and dig, and what happened was Corey was gracious enough to give me a ride around and to see what was happening, and we started talking about what had happened in Joplin, and I got to meet some of you as you dug through your rubble. And when I stopped to talk to Teresa, I said I was from Joplin, and she hugged me and she said, you know. So I want you to know that you're not in this alone. There are 50,000 and more people praying for you every day. There are things that happen in your life that after the satellite trucks leave, you may feel alone. When it came time to decorate your homes for Christmas and that family heirloom was gone that you had forgot about, those of us in Joplin remember. Each time that passes and a wave of emotion hits you, I want you to know that we feel that too. So we started a group called Joplin Loves Pilger. The outpouring has been amazing. But to take you back to the night of the Joplin tornado for a second, you know, it's interesting, some of us were talking earlier, and you know, I travel a lot with my job, and people always ask me, were you affected by the tornado? I live on the north side, much like some of you that live on your south side. There was not a limb down at my house. But 3 of my friends died, 5 of my friends lost their homes and businesses, and 22 of my friends lost their homes, and 2 of my friends had family members in critical condition. So was I affected? We all were. You may lose your home, but if your home's intact and you're still here, there's a pain there that you can't describe to anybody else until you live through it. So today is a celebration, and it's a celebration of life and what is good. And the night of the Joplin tornado, one of the things that I've always done in my life is to have a deep sense of gratitude. Because you never know. None of us are guaranteed of tomorrow. None of us. This could be our last sunset. And the only thing that the Joplin tornado did for me is make me realize on a deeper level of how important it is to live in that deep state of gratitude. That we do have things to be thankful for. And that night, we came out of the basement on the north side of town, and much like the rest of the world, we saw the Weather Channel report. So we're looking at a satellite live truck shot of an area 4 miles away from where we were standing, and it was shock beyond belief. Exactly the same kind of shock that you saw when you saw this for the first time. So I hugged my boy, I told him I loved him, he was safe. My buddy Matt and Stacy hopped in a truck and off we went. And until 4:30 in the morning, we saw, experienced, and endured a human suffering unlike any human should ever see on this planet in this life. But we did it. And in my life, I've always used gratitude to be through and get through those moments. And I drew on that night. When we were digging for a mother with her 9-year-old daughter in the basement that nobody could get to, I was thankful that the heavy equipment showed up. When we were helping pull 10 people out of a convenience store basement, It was a surreal moment because there was one fire truck and one lone fireman standing there. And I thought, why doesn't he come to help? Until I realized all 10 fuel pumps had been severed and fuel was spewing 75 feet into the air, creating a gasoline mist dripping down on all of us. And the minute we got the last person out of there, he told us to get out of there, evacuate the area immediately. Then we went to a super box store, which is a sporting goods store, and we got to see several people that already passed away, but the firefighters were working so hard on those individuals that were still alive. I looked around and there were firefighters from all over, just simply because the guy on the Weather Channel said this town needs help. And I know you experienced that too. Once word got out when there were just hundreds of thousands of strangers, and it touches you. It's bittersweet, but it's amazing. So I got to see firefighters in a completely different light that night. Remember when we all watched the news of the 9/11 attacks in New York and we saw the firefighters and their dedication? There's something special about firefighters that goes a little bit deeper. They live and breathe that passion. And when you get to see that up close and personal, it's powerful. It's real powerful. And we would not have survived that night if we hadn't had those firefighters, firefighter men and women and EMTs and ambulances from all over. So there are times when I would have to stop and think about being grateful for the firefighters instead of processing visually what I was experiencing. And by doing that and expressing that gratitude within myself, we were able to focus and go on to the next victim, and go on to the next victim, and go on to the next victim. The interesting thing is, my buddies and I, we were just a group of guys, and there were hundreds, if not thousands, of others doing the same thing. And one of them is a gentleman that's with me tonight, and I'm about to introduce him to you, and he's going to say a few words, but here's the interesting thing. Talk about being thankful for those firefighters and their dedication. Jimmy Burgess and I don't really know each other. We met just about a month ago on social media. Because of a mutual friend, I found out that he was a Iraq war veteran, 3 tours of duty. And after the night of the Joplin tornado, he decided then and there to become a firefighter. He's also a dedicated father who loves his 2 boys. And so when we got together and I found out that he decided to become a firefighter after the Joplin tornado, I knew that he had to be here with me today to share our love and gratitude that we have for you from Joplin. So it is an honor for me to introduce this young man who is dedicated to what he does, has a passion for helping others, is an amazing veteran, and somebody that will always be there to get your back like you've had so many for us. Jimmy, take it away.
Thank you for having me. You know, I look out into this crowd of people here in Pilger, and I see that we're all survivors. Not just from tornadoes, but from life itself. Why we are here today should remind us that we are resilient, not just as individuals, but as a community. I don't know a single person that hasn't thought after the tornadoes, asked or been amazed by the question, why was this house affected and this next one not? Or that house that was completely destroyed and there still be a china cabinet standing where it wasn't even touched. I've come to realize that all of life is like that. It's full of near misses, but it's also full of unseen opportunities. In 1952, there was an American named James Starkle fighting on a battlefield in Korea. One night while on patrol, his platoon came under enemy fire. He was wounded and transported to an Army field hospital. He had been shot 2 millimeters from his heart. It was in this hospital where he met his future wife. He recovered, left the Army. He had a son who in turn had a son. And they decided to follow into the tradition to serve their country as well. His grandson, James Starkle III, was in basic training with me. We were friends right away. We talked all the time. And I had just recently switched from the Air Force to the Army. And we were in a replacement battalion together before basic training even started. And he asked me, the drill sergeant had asked, who's going to take charge of this platoon as a private, you know? And he had turned and looked at me and he's like, you're prior service, you should probably do this. So I raised my hand, reluctantly, but ready to do it. And just that little bit of confidence, that little push was all I needed. After basic training, out of 400 soldiers, I ended up being selected as outstanding soldier leader of the cycle. And I felt that that was my start. After I was in the Army for a while, I got accepted into the only Special Operations Aviation Unit in the Army. It was there that I had an opportunity to work with some of the finest American warriors that the world has ever seen. They're the epitome of honor, selfless service, and professionalism. They're known as the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. On my first tour to Iraq, I was inspired not by battlefield heroics, though there is plenty to speak of, not by selfless service or sense of duty, because Americans have always stepped up in the face of adversity for the greater good of mankind, just like we've seen here in Pilger. Who inspired me was a man who gave his life bringing the fight to the enemy, not because he was ordered to, but because he believed in what he was doing. So much so that Major Bubba Worrell paid the ultimate sacrifice on May 14, 2006, when his age 6 little bird was shot down by enemy fire during combat operations just south of Baghdad. What inspired me about him, though, wasn't who he was as an officer or as a military man, though magnanimous in his own right. What inspired me about him was who he was as a leader and a father. One morning we had been doing missions the whole night before, and he went out to make a phone call to call his family. And when he came in, he had this big smile on his face. And I said, "Sir, what's the smile for?" And he said, "I just got off the phone with my oldest son, and the first question he asked me, he says, 'How are the men doing?'" Let that sink in for a minute, because this is an officer who's off fighting in Iraq, and the first thing his oldest son asked is, "How are the men doing?" And to me as a leader, you cannot replace that. To be able to put that into your kids, it's just, it kind of drove me. I have 2 boys myself, Ethan and Ryan, and I make it a point to tell them to live their lives and to try and be happy. Every day I remind them that they're my best friends, to be nice to everyone, to always put their best foot forward. I believe Major Worrell died for that, and I owe him that. I think we all owe him that. I got out of the Army in 2008 and moved to Joplin, Missouri. That's where my now ex-wife was originally from. Went back there hoping to start a new life, and I worked in the casino. I was dealing cards. I lived in an above-garage apartment. And then May 22nd came, 2011, and I was across the street at my neighbor's house, who's also a veteran. And we couldn't see the tornado, but we could hear it coming through. And there's a strange calling when something like that happens, that you know you got to put yourself in a better place and just do what needs to get done. My boys lived on the other side of town, the tornado had gone right in between where I lived and where they lived. And I knew I had to get to them. So it took me 3.5 hours, Ted and I, going through and helping everyone we could all the way there through the storm, still unsure if my boys were okay. I finally got to the boys, and I had blood all over the front of my pants, and they had this look of being so happy to see me, and all I could think of was, they're okay, it's time to go back out and help some more. So that's what we did. We worked all through the night, and the following morning, we had come up on a family that was standing out in front of some rubble, and Joplin had worked pretty fast to get the bulldozers in and start clearing out streets and stuff like that. And the lady had come up to me because she knew her grandma lived here, and she couldn't get up there herself, and asked if I would go up there and try and find her grandma. So I go up there into the rubble, and I was pulling stuff away from the rubble, and it was like 1 second she wasn't there, and the next second she was. And it was a small, frail little lady that was still sitting in her recliner, and she had her feet crossed and she had her arms crossed, and she was holding a pillow, and I could still see her face. You know, she had passed away, assumingly, from the tornado. And when I pulled that pillow from her, and this is something that'll always stick with me, I know all of us have our moments of certain things that we remember from the tornado. And this pillow, it had written on it, "Family is what makes a house a home." I just found that extremely ironic, because the home that she had lived in took her life, and the family was there for her. So we had been advised not to move the bodies, but I could see her family standing down there, and I just couldn't, as a human, leave her like that. So I brushed away the rest of the rubble, and I lifted her up myself, and I carried her down to her family, and that look on their face of being able to be reunited with her, even though she had passed, made all the difference in the world to them. It was right there. I knew that the casino wasn't doing much for my soul, and I needed to be doing something different. Within the next couple of weeks, I had gone to MSSU and signed up for the Fire Academy and the EMT course. With full support from my friends and family, I worked full-time, plus took both courses. I had two of my best friends watch my boys when I was in class. One who is with us today, Dustin Wendell. The other, Seneca Matthews, who's here in spirit. Unfortunately, Seneca was killed by a drunk driver in 2012. That's just a saddened reminder that tomorrow is never guaranteed. Almost 4 years now into the fire community, I absolutely love what I do. I started out at Reddings Mill Fire Department, which is just south of Joplin. Lucky for me, because hands down, they're a great group of fire professionals that I would like to thank trained me to be an exceptional firefighter. I was then afforded the opportunity for even better success, and this past March I was given an opportunity to join the Pittsburgh Fire Department in Kansas. I'd like to say a special thank you to Chief Simons and Chief Casella for letting me be here tonight to share my story with each of you. You know, each day I wake up knowing today is another opportunity to make a difference. And I would like to challenge all of you to continue to be better, to continue to grow as a community, because we know it's not easy. Follow your dreams and realize no one is going to do the work for you. Find what it is that inspires you and feed off of it. Every time I get on the fire truck, I think about Major Worrell and Seneca and believe they are watching over me, protecting me, guiding me. I train like my boys are always watching. There's a certain amount of humility that's required in knowing that you can't help everyone. At night when I think I'm alone, the voices that I couldn't help are quieted by those that helped me. And I encourage you guys to do the same. My final thought brings me back to that battlefield in Korea. One bullet fired from an unnamed Korean soldier changed my life. 2 millimeters to the left, and I may have never been pushed to lead. Think about that. A bullet fired 65 years ago changed my life. It's kind of a big thing. You know, and there's a part of me that hopes that same bullet that changed me can somehow help you guys to heal by bringing me up here. So please be inspired to be a better you. We are Pilger. We are Joplin. We are America. God bless America.
Wow, how about another round of applause for Jimmy? That was amazing. And, you know, for his first public speaking event, I think he did pretty good. And, you know, speaking of our military folks, if you're a veteran in the audience, would you please stand for a second? Or EMT, or anybody that served ever in our country. Just let's give you guys a round of applause right now. right? You're on the path to recovery. You know, one of the things that came about in my life that was not expected